Well, welcome to our latest album quest. And what's hilarious is the dilemma this blogger is facing right now. We're looking at his notes for Group 49 of Round 2, and he is just totally stuck.
Yeah, he hit a wall.
A huge wall. It's been 2 full months since his last review, because this specific group of 4 albums is just so good, he refuses to write the review and move on. He's voluntarily keeping himself in the locked room because he just wants to keep listening to these contenders.
Which, I mean, that is the ultimate testament to the caliber of music in Group 49. When the friction of a forced listening experiment transforms into pure immersion, well, you know you're dealing with heavyweights.
Right, so let's unpack the absolute pedigree of this group. We've got Bryan Adams with his 1996 album 18 Till I Die. We have Simple Minds' 1989 release Street Fighting Years.
Classic.
Yeah, and jump into 2002, Eminem's The Eminem Show. And finally, bringing the metal, Iron Maiden's 1988 album, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son.
It's quite the lineup.
It is. But to understand why the blogger is stuck, we have to look at the musical titans these albums slaughtered just to get here in round 1. And I need you to confirm I'm reading the author's notes correctly here. Did Bryan Adams really beat Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, Andy Genesis?
He did. Yeah, Bryan Adams squeaked past Pink Floyd and Genesis, actually taking second place in his round 1 group behind Dire Straits.
Okay, let's unpack this. I mean, how does a mid-90s Bryan Adams pop rock album defeat the undisputed king of concept albums?
Yeah.
Dark Side of the Moon is legendary.
It is, but it comes down to the mechanics of auditory fatigue. You see, Dark Side of the Moon is a heavy, unbroken conceptual weight.
Right, it's intense.
Exactly. It demands active, continuous concentration. But when you are forced to listen to a group of albums 6 times in a single week, say you're on listen number 5, during a really stressful Tuesday morning commute, you don't always want heavy conceptual weight.
Yeah, you just want a break.
Precisely. The author notes that 18 Till I Die offered a vital emotional pacing. You had melodic rock on the title track, sharp pop on The Only Thing That Looks Good on Me Is You, and, sentimental ballads.
So the variety helps.
Yeah, that radio-friendly dynamic range acts as a psychological breather. Variety basically becomes a survival mechanism in a forced loop.
Okay, so a catchy hook saves you from loop fatigue. But if variety is the key to surviving round 1, how did Simple Minds beat Queen's Innuendo? Because Queen is the literal definition of musical variety.
Well, Simple Minds didn't just survive their group. They crushed Queen and Boston's Don't Look Back through sheer, immaculate musicianship.
Really?
Yeah, the author highlighted how the production quality was so pristine that it didn't wear out its welcome. Like, every single listen revealed a new layer of instrumentation rather than feeling repetitive.
So it's basically a masterclass in sonic architecture. But then there's Iron Maiden. They edged out Oasis's Definitely Maybe and only lost first place in their round to U2's The Joshua Tree. The math here just doesn't make sense to me.
How so?
I mean, heavy metal versus the biggest Britpop band of the era. How does Maiden win that?
Well, through what the author describes as an undeniable melodic cool factor.
Melodic cool factor.
Yeah, tracks like Infinite Dreams and The Evil That Men Do aren't just loud. They are highly structured, melodic metal. Oasis relies heavily on raw attitude and volume.
Which is great, but...
Right, but it can become grating on a 6th listen. Iron Maiden's intricate guitar harmonies just gave the ear more complex puzzles to solve, keeping the listener engaged longer.
Oh, that makes sense. Which brings us to Eminem, who took down Elton John's songs from the West Coast and Eric Clapton's Slow Hand.
Yeah, Eminem bested those classic rock icons by showcasing immense breadth.
I mean, it's a huge album.
It is. The author highlighted how Eminem balanced giant, infectious hip-hop numbers like Without Me with the intense melancholy of Cleaning Out My Closet, and crucially, his sampling skills.
Oh, right, the Aerosmith sample.
Exactly. Taking Aerosmith's Dream On and turning it into Sing for the Moment provided this brilliant bridge. It captured the grandiosity of classic rock while delivering these wildly original lyrical flows.
So we basically have a group of battle-tested giant killers. They've already proven they can withstand the scrutiny of a week-long loop. So let's look at the ones who fell in Group 49, starting with how our visual memories and commercial shine actually impact our ears.
Yes, the context is huge here.
Right. And finishing in 4th place is Bryan Adams' 18 Till I Die.
This one is a fascinating case study in how context shapes our relationship with an album. The author actually turned 18 the year this came out in 1996.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there's a really deep nostalgic anchor there.
And an incredible visual anchor, too. I was laughing so hard at the author's notes from seeing Bryan Adams at Wembley Arena in 1997.
Oh, the stage show.
Yes. During the performance of a song called I Want to Be Your Underwear, the stadium ceiling suddenly opens up.
Yeah.
Right? And loads of gigantic, glowing neon women's underwear descend.
That is just wild.
They are literally bathed in glow-in-the-dark light, dancing around the stage like massive puppets on strings. I mean, can you imagine?
Well, that kind of theatrical absurdity, it creates a core memory that permanently attaches to the audio track for you.
Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't just props. During summer of '69, Adams asks the massive Wembley crowd if anyone can play the rhythm section. Very. He pulls a confident 20-something guy up on stage, hands the fan his own personal guitar, does a quick chord check, and the fan just flawlessly kicks off the entire song with the band.
You know, what's fascinating here is how that explosive live showmanship actually masked the underlying musical reality of Bryan Adams at that specific cultural moment.
What do you...
Well, by the mid to late 90s, pop charts were heavily shifting toward dance, R&B, and grunge. People were actually still fatigued from the overbearing global dominance of his song,
Yeah.
Everything I Do It For You, from a few years prior.
Oh, yeah. That song was everywhere.
Exactly. So he was widely dismissed by critics as a generic, uncool rocker at that point.
But the author notes the production value on this album is secretly incredible.
Yeah.
Like it sold 5 million copies and had 5 hit singles.
Right. The author actually argues the production is superior to 1991's Waking Up the Neighbors, which had a notoriously exorbitant budget. Yeah, if you listen closely to 18 Till I Die, the guitar arrangements are surprisingly inventive. You have this beautiful Spanish flamenco-style guitar driving the track. Have you ever really loved the woman?
Which sat at #1 on the U.S. Billboard charts for, what, 5 solid weeks?
Yes. You also had modern, complex guitar sonics on Black Pearl.
So, wait, if the guitar work is that sophisticated and it has all these nostalgic live memories attached to it, why does it finish dead last in Group 49?
Because of inconsistency. When you put an album in a pressure cooker with 3 other masterpieces, you cannot afford a skip track.
Right, the weak links.
Exactly. The author pointed out that a song called Star becomes very bland on repeated listens. Your underwear feels a bit juvenile and creepy in hindsight.
Yeah, fair enough.
But the real auditory torture was a track called Due to You. It was heavily inspired by The Cure, featuring this manic harmonica that, by the 6th listen, just becomes completely overbearing. It lacked the relentless quality needed to survive.
I can see how a manic harmonica would get old fast. So, if flaws and inconsistency eliminate you, that brings us to the 3rd place finisher, Simple Minds' Street Fighting Years.
This is a great story.
It really is, because it explores how the literal, physical format we consume music on can distort our entire understanding of it. I mean, listening to an album on a cut-off cassette is like reading a mystery novel where the last chapter is just ripped out.
Yeah, you build your entire understanding of the art around an incomplete architecture because the author originally owned this on a taped cassette, correct?
Yes. Back in 1989, his dad recorded the LP onto a blank cassette for him. But the tape literally ran out of magnetic ribbon. It cut off immediately after the track Mandela Day.
Oh, no.
For an entire decade, the author believed that was the grand finale of the album. He had no idea the album actually contained a cover of Peter Gabriel's Biko ND, the massive hit Belfast Child.
It is wild to think about missing the emotional climax of an album just because of the physical limitations of plastic and tape.
Especially because Belfast Child wasn't just a bonus track. It was a monumental piece of music history. It was a UK #1 single, and it clocked in at 6 minutes and 39 seconds.
That's huge for a single.
Right. The author notes it held the record for a longest UK #1 song in history by duration for 9 straight years.
Until Oasis shattered that record with All Around the World, which was like over 9 minutes long.
Yeah. But even missing a 6.5-minute epic for 10 years, the author still adored this album. Why does it hold up so well in a forced listening loop?
Well, because of the psychoacoustics of Trevor Horn's legendary production. The dynamic range on Street Fighting Years is so vast, it physically manipulates your attention span.
How so?
The author notes you actually have to strain your ears to hear lead singer Jim Kerr's whispered delivery during certain hushed acoustic passages.
Oh, interesting.
By forcing the listener to lean in and concentrate, it basically resets their auditory palate. And then those whispers are suddenly punctured by massive, explosive bursts of stadium rock energy on tracks like Kick It In.
So it's basically a sonic roller coaster. It doesn't let you get bored.
Exactly. And the guest features are a masterclass in subtlety. You have legendary drummers Manu Katché and Stuart Copeland laying down complex rhythms.
That's insane rhythm section.
It is. But the best detail from the source notes is about the track. This Is Your Land. The author used to listen to this as a kid, and halfway through, a gruffer, deeper voice starts singing, "Money can't buy me, I've got time."
Let me guess, he didn't know who it was.
Nope. For years, he assumed Jim Kerr was just doing a weird vocal channeling, like an alter ego.
I love that. He thought the singer's just putting on a Batman voice.
Yeah. But it wasn't until recently he realized it was actually Lou Reed quietly guesting on the track.
That is hilarious.
Imagine discovering Lou Reed was secretly hanging out on your childhood cassette tape this whole time. But, despite the relaxed musicianship, the political charge, and that dynamic range, it still missed the top 2 spots.
Right. So if Simple Minds lost points for an incomplete tape, and Bryan Adams failed because of a manic harmonica, how on earth did a 78-minute rap album and a completely jumbled prog metal concept album take the top spots?
Great question.
Moving to our victors, taking second place in Group 49 is Eminem's The Eminem Show.
We really have to establish the cultural dominance of this moment. The Eminem Show was the biggest globally selling album of 2002.
The cultural saturation was just inescapable. Eminem was in the middle of a historic 4-year run. The Real Slim Shady in 2000 stand, Without Me, Lose Yourself, all the way to just Lose It in 2004.
Truly unprecedented.
But here's where it gets really interesting for me. I always thought early 2000s hip-hop was entirely architected by mega producers. Like, when we think of Eminem, we think of Dr. Dre pulling all the strings in the studio.
Right.
But the author's notes point out that Dr. Dre only produced 3 songs on this massive 78-minute album.
Yeah, that is the defining revelation of this record, and it explains exactly why it survived the forced listening loop. Eminem and musician Jeff Bass self-produced the vast majority of it.
Wow.
And instead of relying on the polished synthetic club beats that dominated the early 2000s bling era of hip-hop, they utilized organic instrumentation.
Wait, live rock instruments on a hip-hop record?
Yes. The opening track, White America, drives forward on the energy of a live organic drum kit. Cleaning Out My Closet is built around a prominent physical bass guitar riff.
Oh, I can totally hear that bass line in my head right now.
Right. By injecting these pop and rock sensibilities, it creates an intimate, almost garage band feel. It makes the intensely autobiographical lyrics hit much harder.
But it is almost 80 minutes long. How does a diary entry that long not cause massive auditory fatigue by the 6th listen?
Because it is relentlessly entertaining in its pacing. I mean, it deals with intense life events, fame, family drama, legal troubles, but it balances them with a generally lighter, more theatrical tone than his previous album, the Marshall Mathers LP.
Okay, so the tone helps the length.
Exactly. The author does admit that near the end, tracks like When the Music Stops or Till I Collapse make the album overstay its welcome just a fraction.
Yeah, that happens with long albums.
But the momentum of the organic production is so strong, it never derails the experience. It had the weight and the delivery to comfortably eliminate Simple Minds.
So Eminem takes second place by stripping away the synthesizers and using organic rock instruments. And the supreme irony here is the band that won this entire group did the exact opposite.
He really did.
First place goes to Iron Maiden's 7th studio album, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. And for the first time in their metal career, they leaned heavily into synthesizers.
It was a massive stylistic risk. Right out of the gate, following singer Bruce Dickinson's opening spoken word monologue, the track Moonchild hits the listener with a sweeping, epic-sounding keyboard synthesizer intro.
It's totally unexpected.
Yeah, it signaled a full transition into complex prog metal.
Okay. But I have to push back on the core identity of this album because the author's notes bring up something fascinating. This is famously lauded as a concept album about a chosen one with supernatural abilities, right?
That's the lore, yes.
And the source mentions that Bruce Dickinson actually felt the record was only half finished. He believed it could have been a sprawling double album like Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. But looking at the actual story they ended up with, the narrative is completely jumbled.
The author agrees with you entirely on this point.
I mean, if it's a linear concept album, why does the birth of the chosen one seem to happen in the middle of the record instead of the beginning?
Right.
Is Moonchild at the start supposed to be the first 7th son, and then the middle of the album is the 7th son of that son? It is incredibly hard to keep up with. It feels like someone dropped the script pages and just recorded them in whatever order they picked them up.
Which raises an important question about how we evaluate music in an album quest like this. As a narrative, it fails. The author points out that despite rich lyrical passages like the line, Just by looking through your eyes, he could see the future and his own demise. Nothing actually seems to happen in the plot other than the sheer existence of the character.
Exactly.
Furthermore, the pacing sags in the middle, the chorus on the title track is overly repetitive, and a song called The Prophecy is notably lackluster.
Right. So we have a confusing story, a lagging middle section, and repetitive choruses. How does that beat the organic brilliance of Eminem, the immaculate production of Simple Minds, and the pop rock hooks of Bryan Adams?
It wins because it possesses a rare, almost intangible sonic momentum that transcends its structural flaws.
Sonic momentum.
Yes, the author observes that the album finishes with this incredible flourish. The superb track, The Clairvoyant, followed by the highly entertaining Only the Good Die Young. And then it trails off with a subtle variation of the opening spoken monologue.
Oh, so it closes the loop.
Exactly. When that final word is spoken and the music fades, it leaves you wondering how the time passed so quickly. But more importantly, the psychological mechanism it triggers is profound. The second the album ends, you are overwhelmed by the immediate urge to hit play and start the entire 40-minute journey over again.
Wow. That is the holy grail of this experiment, isn't it?
Truly.
In a format where you are literally forcing yourself to replay the music 6 times, the album that makes you want to replay it automatically wins.
It turns the chore of forced listening into a compulsion. That is the definition of a giant killer.
So what does this all mean for you as a listener? Looking at Greenster Rock's journey through Group 49, this entire album quest highlights how heavily our relationship with music is dictated by context.
Absolutely.
We don't just hear audio, we experience it through the filter of our lives. Whether that filter is the physical limitation of a cassette tape cutting off the biggest hit song of the decade, or a core visual memory of giant neon underwear swaying from a stadium ceiling.
Still can't get over that image.
Right. Or, the psychological pressure cooker of locking yourself in a room with just 4 albums for a week.
Music is not an isolated event. Our relationship with it isn't just about the notes on the page. It is fundamentally about how we are forced, or how we choose to let it into our lives.
You definitely don't get a deeply ingrained emotional connection from a 2-second skip on a random streaming playlist.
Which leaves us with a final thought to mull over. In today's era of infinite streaming, every song ever recorded is instantly available in our pockets. We can swipe away a track the moment it fails to hook us.
Yeah, it's almost too easy.
But in doing so, have we lost the ability to truly digest and appreciate an album's flaws? If we demand perfection in the first 5 seconds, we completely miss out on the messy, jumbled brilliance of an Iron Maiden supernatural epic, or the complex acoustic guitars hiding inside a wildly inconsistent Bryan Adams record.
That's a great point.
So, what would happen if you forced yourself to only listen to 4 random albums for the next 2 weeks? What hidden masterpieces, bizarre guest vocals, or weird synth intros would you finally discover just because you couldn't hit skip?
You might just find your own giant killer. It's funny, the infinite buffet of modern streaming gives us everything. But sitting down and truly living with the music, that gives us something we actually keep. Thanks for joining us on this album quest. We'll catch you on the next deep dive into the source material.